Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Nurgle and the Ogre Kingdoms here on the edge of the Darkwood. It's going to be myself with Tamurkhan facing off against Boss who's going to be rocking the, I believe, Slaughtermaster. It looks like it's going to be a caster character, actually using the Lore of Heavens if memory serves. So let's go ahead and take a peek here. Yes, it is going to be a Heavens caster, so that's actually pretty good. Urannon's Thunderbolt is a very cost-effective spell against Nurgle. It does great damage against units like Plague Bearers and Warriors, so I really like that tech. I think that's quite cool. But it's kind of an Ogre mirror match in a way. Tamurkhan, of course, is technically a Nurgle parasite demon thing that is infesting the body of an Ogre tyrant. But, it's all in the family, right? They have got some family relations here. But Tamurkhan on foot isn't the most meta choice against the Ogres, but he still is an anti-large fighter with poison damage and a pretty good stat line who can put some solid hurt on top of, Ogre monsters and characters. So I'm going to be trying out old Tammy and seeing how he does. For the rest of the build, it's going to be Marauders, and one of my favorite infantry choices against Ogres is the Plague Bearer. Plague Bearers hit very hard against light armor, which is mostly Ogre Bulls and Noblars, and Pigback Riders are going to be everywhere now in this matchup. I would imagine he has at least 3 of those, and Plague Bearers will be able to butcher them pretty effectively, I would say. Now, the one thing you want to avoid with Plague Bearers, of course, or a couple things, are going to be the Thundertusk is a really hard counter to them, as well as the old Ogre Bull dual weapons. I would say they're going to probably trade up into the Plague Bearer, so gotta watch out for those. Now, I do have a caster here. I'm going to be using Rancid Visitations as well as Fleshy Abundance. Want to keep Tamurkhan alive, make sure my Lord doesn't falter, and also have Rancid to snipe the big monsters, because Thundertusks are going to be very meta. Most tournaments, including skirmish games that we're playing, are limiting Thundertusks to 1 because they're a little bit overtuned. But yeah, so you need to have some tech at sniping them. So Rancid Visitations, Angels of Decay, all that kind of stuff. And we do have the Festering Stooges in the woods because the hand grenades are really good at killing big targets. Now for Boss's build, it's going to be a single Thundertusk here, dropping its hot, cold, or actually it's freezing cold payload here on the Plague Bearers. It is going to be a Heavens caster with Wind Blast and Harmonic Convergence, and the rest of the army is going to be fairly standard Ogre stuff, mostly Nobblar-centric, Pigback Riders, Nobblars and Trappers for a little bit of range DPS against Nurgle. Doesn't hurt, and I believe that is it with a Colin being Man-Eaters with great weapons. Okay. So he's anticipating something large, and the Man-Eaters will be able to fight Tamurkhan, and what else will they be relevant against? I mean, Plague Ogres, Rot Knights. Rot Knights are a little bit risky in this matchup. I would say, like, in the previous patch, you could get away with some Rot Knight action into the Ogre matchup, but now that Pigback Riders exist, they're very risky. However, I still think you should bring maybe one, because there are a couple things on the roster, and, in certain circumstances, maybe if your opponent doesn't go Pigback heavy, they're anticipating an infantry swarm, you're gonna collect some dividends there. So Angels of Decay are my counter tech here against the Thundertusk. Now they do have the Unholy Hand Grenades, which do a lot of damage, so they're going to be hunting down that Thundertusk, putting a little bit of pressure on as Tamurkhan is going to be intercepting the Ogre Bulls with dual weapons, and the Unholy Hand Grenades, very inaccurate there, unfortunately. We do a little bit of damage, but nothing to write home about. Now, obviously, the counter tech for the Ogres, or in theory, is to call in Blood Vultures, which my opponent is going to be doing, but Furies, if I'm not mistaken, do beat Blood Vultures 1-to-1, so we're going to be calling in Chaos Furies to hunt them down, and hopefully do a little bit of heavy lifting for us. So Ogre's thought about pressuring the back objective, but I did have a Marauder as well as a Nurgling back here, the Arwar Nurgling, so they would be pretty durable at holding that. So he's going to be withdrawing from my back objective and getting ready for a big middle fight, and now he's going to be getting an ideal engagement. It's going to be Ogre Bulls with dual weapons, nice anti-infantry bonus, bashing through the Plague Bearers, and we are playing on a mod, so obviously we have the Total Tavern map pack, but we also have a mod that's fixing the splash attack issues that came with CA's most recent update. So the Ogres are going to be performing totally normally here, which is great. Angels of Decay, though, getting some big damage in there. Unholy Hand Grenade starting to work down the HP of the Thundertusk, having down a couple thousand damage. And obviously, the double Blood Vultures are going to be wanting blood against my Angels of Decay, and he immediately just steamrolls those Marauders. So that felt pretty bad, but it is what it is. But Angels of Decay are good fighters, especially teamed up with some Furies. They're going to be able to 2v2 this fight and hopefully not take too much damage in the process. Now, Nurgle, of course, is very ponderous. We're going to be waddling across. The Festering Stooges are making their way over. That is going to be a nice little bombardment. Urannon's Thunderbolt on my Marauders, if I'm not mistaken. So it does some work, and maybe we'll allow the Nobblars to uptrade into that fight. We do start to win the Air Force fight, so one unit of Blood Vultures is routed off, and the Angels of Decay have not taken any damage. That's a big success for us. Meanwhile, on the flank, Tamurkhan is just hunting down these Ogre Bull dual weapons, and these Plague Bearers are just, living their best life, getting the benefit of the Black Cleaver from Tamurkhan, and now Tammy's going to be running across, getting ready to intercept the Thundertusk. This is a good fight for him, for sure. Thundertusk is a really scary fighter and does have an anti-large javelin attack on top, which isn't included in its stat profile. But yeah, Tammy's more than happy to take this fight, although there are Man-Eaters with great weapons here, which is very, very dangerous for him. But he's a raid boss for sure. I've really been enjoying Tamurkhan as a Nurgle Lord, especially on his dragon. I've been getting a lot of value with him. I don't know if they gave him some milk in this most recent update, but he's been an absolute chad. This is not good for my opponent, though. The Angels of Decay are getting some huge unholy hand grenades here on the Thundertusk, and he's down to 6,000 HP. Tamurkhan's been getting some pretty good hits. Fleshy Abundance and Nurgle's Favored Son used on Tamurkhan to heal him up to full, and we get another huge salvo right there, and that is no joke, man. Those Angels of Decay are such a freaking good unit, and one of Nurgle's best answers against large targets as well. Chaos Sorcerer also gets a Rancid Visitation, so the Thundertusk is going to be fleeing the scene, but it is going to be breaking leadership-wise. I believe Thundertusk's base leadership isn't that insane. It's only 70, so, you know, they are, you know, breakable for sure, but my opponent does get superior numbers up in the sky now. We do see the Blood Vultures and another fresh unit coming in to swarm my Angels, which is going to be hurting for sure, and I did call in some Furies, but I had a micro mistake. I forgot. I ordered them in as they were, like, being summoned, and if you do it too soon, they don't take the order, so that's a big blunder for me, and it's probably going to lead to me causing the Angels of Decay, because I did call out those Furies a minute ago, but it is what it is. Mistakes were made. So looking around the battlefield, we do have the back objective firmly under our control, obviously, but the middle was under our control, and we do have the points lead. But my opponent here starting to take control of it, which is very, very scary. And we get the dreaded Yetis coming in, which is very cool. So getting to see a lot of new units in action here. Yeti's going to be hunting down my infantry here, maybe looking to get across and deal with the Thundertusk, or save the Thundertusk, I dare say. Because if that Thundertusk manages to live, I basically just lose the game, right? If it comes back, you know, I have my Nurgle healing advantage here, but if he's able to just heal this thing up and stabilize it, I'm going to be in really bad shape. And now, you know, you knew I wouldn't do you guys dirty. I had to bring in some Rot Knights. So the Rot Knights, anti-large fighters, if they can avoid Pigback Riders, they can do some respectable damage in this matchup. And them and Tamurkhan going to be going after the Thundertusk. The Boss going to be wisely intercepting here. So he sends in the old Blood Vultures and is able to provide a nice screen. But, you know, in a way, forgetting about my Furies earlier, there was some silver lining to it. Like, they might have been busy and or died in combat, but now I have them to hunt down the Thundertusk. So I'm going to be using them to hunt there. Meanwhile, the Rot Knights are going to be chewing up the Blood Vultures, which are considered to be infantry size. So the Rot Knights won't have substantial DPS against them, but, you know, 60 weapon strength is still 60 weapon strength. And Tamurkhan, of course, helping out a little bit here, but trying to waddle away and go after that Thundertusk, which, again, if that thing comes back, we're going to feel real, real bad. Looking at my sustained fighting over here, it's a little bit dodgy. I do have the Festering Stooges, which are a very, very powerful unit. 1,000 value on them, not bad considering how much of a beating they've been taking, but they're just straight up being overwhelmed. Ogre Bulls here, Pigback Riders. A lot of units are just kind of dragging them down. Really, really a nasty tar pit. My other Plague Bearer unit doing pretty good. You know, not much value, but absorbing a lot of damage and continuing to push through and lasting the long life here. Thundertusk does get the meat feast, guys. Very, very dodgy. And the Chaos Furies are going to be hot in pursuit here as they hunt down the Thundertusk, and hopefully are going to be able to get it, because that meat feast is a huge freaking heal. I mean, look, it's still going. God damn, that is so powerful on a Thundertusk. The percentage-based healing on its huge HP pool. I mean, so much real estate is being gained back. So Rot Knight's going to be sweeping around looking after these Ogre Bulls, but he does start to win on Objective 2 here. The Ogres were able to push through my Plague Bearer brick. The Festering Stooges did get about 1,200 value, which is really not terrible. And here the Hounds as well as Tamurkhan able to break these Pigback Riders. And now, you know, I'm just calling in more infantry for the long game. I'm like, okay, the points aren't that far apart. It's 581 against 604. Plague Bearers are obviously my best performers in the infantry department. Marauders are going to get pounded. Arguably, Shielded Warriors could be pretty good too. Shielded Warriors with their armor would be very resilient against the Ogre Bull dual weapon, so that's something to kind of explore. But personally, I'm a big Plague Bearer enjoyer. Although as a reinforcement unit, they are very, very slow. So Ogres, their not first call-in, but their call-in here in the mid-game is going to be some Lead Belchers, which is a good idea, right? My army is very tattered, and, you know, I don't have a lot of tools for pursuing. And thankfully, the Thundertusk does get escorted off the battlefield, so the Chad Furies were able to take that thing off. So his Meat Feast ultimately ended up being wasted, but he does punish me with the Blood Vultures, which really actually changes this matchup for the Ogres. I would say previously you could really bully a lot of the Ogre range units with Fury dominance, but now that they have something that trades, obviously I think at 1-to-1 a Fury will win, but the Blood Vultures trade well enough that it's totally feasible, especially if you have a little bit of ground support, like some trappers or shooting. So that's really, really big, and the Ogre Kingdoms are certainly going to be feasting well. Frolickers, Bubonic, and Rot Knights do take a big fight on the back objective. The Yetis as well as the Pigback Riders do move in. So this is a very dodgy one for me. The Pigback Riders are just so menacing. Thankfully, I do have the Nurglings buffering out a little bit and providing some support. Massacre going down from the Ogre Kingdoms here. That's going to be a fat buff as the Yeti. Oh, did he just pick that Nurgling up? I think he did. All right, well, they're taking those Nurglings to the club. Rot Knights are probably sitting at an okay amount of value, about 700 right now, so they did essentially take out the equivalent of an Ogre Bull unit. but we're getting swarmed pretty hard. Ogre Bulls are going to be on their way in, and I'm in a very dangerous position here where I could lose my back objective. So we call in Furies out of desperation here. Meanwhile, a bit of a second wind in the middle. We do get the Plague Bears arriving, some Pestigores, which aren't great in this matchup. Honestly, they downtrade in Ogres pretty badly, but I like having at least 1 or 2 just for Vanguard capture weight. It's something that Nurgle certainly lacks and is very, very helpful for them. I do manage to dodge his Thunderbolt there. Another Plague Bear unit's going to be surging up. The pit fight here, not bad, but his shooting is really, really clutch. These Lead Belchers are going to do fat damage. A really good Wind Blast coming in from the Slaughtermaster of Heavens. Yeah, Ogres did not have Heaven's Magic pre-patched, but I like this tech a lot, right? Like against infantry-centric factions who like to spam a lot of infantry, Nurgle being one of them, having Uranians to deal with armor and Wind Blast to deal with light armor is really, really nice. So kind of realizing on the back foot a little bit. Obviously, the value difference is about 3,000, but I've casted like 2 or 3 Fleshy Abundances. I've used multiple Fecundities. I have healing on my Rot Knight. So I know the game is a lot closer. You know, it's just like the T-Rex. Objects may appear closer than they actually are here in the old Jurassic Park. But Tamurkhan's going to be coming back. The Pigback Riders, a good way to kill Pigback Riders with Chaos is actually to use Furies. Furies rip them up really hard because Pigbacks have pretty bad stats against infantry-sized units. So using Chaos Furies to just karate chop them with the Black Cleaver of Tamurkhan, these Yetis are going to pay the Troll Soul, and Yetis aren't unbreakable. And Rot Knight should be able to pile in and fight them, so we can see the Chosen Knights of Nurgle, super badass. I really like those guys. Will eventually win this fight. A lot of anti-large there, a lot of stopping power, but in the middle it's a little dodgy. We are getting pushed back here, and I do kind of start to think about some spec ops, because he's very light on his back objective, and Gnoblars are expendable, therefore their capture weight's only going to be 2, right? So if I move back there with Pestigores, this is like what you want to do. You want to move a Vanguard unit through the trees, and then you call in a Hound unit, so then I'm going to have 9 capture weight against his 2, and honestly, there'll be nothing he can respond with that quickly for me to get his objective. So that's my game plan now to get back in this game, is to try and get that back objective and, go for the double cap before he can beat me on 2, which is unfortunately going to be very, very close. So Rot Knight's coming across, Furies as well, looking for opportunities, but the Lead Belchers are pretty well screened. He does also have an Iron Gut unit here, which is a good screen. The Blood Vultures coming in the distance and more Ogre Bulls. Very, very good mass here, and he's able to get some beautiful shooting, and the Rot Knight's just getting pounded by that Ogre shooting, and that hurt really bad. However, they've done decently so far. I mean, 1,100 isn't bad. Just getting into that backfield of the Ogres has been a problem, right? The Gnoblar Trappers do form ranks, Blood Vultures coming in, Ogre Bulls. It's bad news bears for those Rot Knights, and they're feeling the Troll Toll. Over here in the meantime, though, the Man-Eaters with Great Weapons do get taken apart by old Tammy, and he just bonks that man on the head. Tamurkhan is so freaking cool. I think he's probably one of my favorite Nurgle Lords to use. Any excuse to use him or him on his dragon, it's just the business. It's so much fun. When you get that like once in a lifetime, but once in maybe a month experience of having Tamurkhan use his Feast of the Maggot Lord to kill an enemy hero or character, oh, it's so righteous. It's so much fun, and the flavor is just oozing from his pestilent pores. On the back objective, though, it looks like a couple of rallying Gnoblar Trappers are going to be heading that way. However, on the back point, you can see I do have my Hound reinforcements coming in, so now we're going to easily get his back objective. But the only problem is we're in danger of losing our back point here. Tamurkhan and company, as well as the Chaos Sorcerer, able to break off a handful of these units, but at the end of the day, the Rot Knights do get routed into the trees here. Overall value is about 1,200, so they didn't get close to paying for themselves. I mean, within 600 isn't the worst thing in the world, but a bit of a shame. I mean, arguably, I wonder if Chaos Knights would have just been better, right? I feel as if a Chaos Knight would do better in this situation. I mean, the Rot Knights are going to be niche better against bigger armored targets because of their AP, but a Nurgle Chaos Knight theoretically is going to be 300-400 gold cheaper and probably would perform similar in terms of DPS against like Ogre Bull units and Man-Eaters and things that don't have a lot of armor. So I do think that the Rot Knight, as cool as it is, probably is going to be inferior to the Chaos Knight in this matchup, which is unfortunate to say. Chaos Knights will also be much better at killing Gnoblars, so I think that is a big part of that. Really good intercept here, using the Blood Vultures to run interference against my Marauder Horsemen and the Pestigores, which were trying to liberate this point and make sure he didn't get it. But he does have the capture weight flowing. The Marauder Horsemen and the Pestigores, though, are getting some decent work done. I do call in another Marauder Horseman here. Tamurkhan going to be battling it out versus the Ogre Bulls, and my reinforcing Marauders, which I'm just desperately sending in the middle, do get taken down by the Heaven's Magic. On Objective 3, though, Pestigores are able to successfully get that, so that felt pretty good right there. Meanwhile, back on the home point, we're trying to get here, but he's probably going to be able to get it. Ogres are a really good objective faction, incredibly quick with 54 speed. They can move up on the point and really just get capture weight where they want it quickly. Now, I'm going to have 8 capture weight here. He's going to have 5. somewhere around like 10, 12, 11 or so. So he's going to be able to wrestle this objective, and I just desperately charge in trying to hold on to that point. Tammy really giving it his all, and Tamurkhan's about paid for himself. I mean, 1,300 value isn't bad. I think like on foot he costs like around 17 or 1,800, but he's still alive and has a lot more to give, right? So he's doing fine, no complaints there. Obviously, I don't think he's as good as the meta choice of like a Nurgle Sorcerer Lord with Rancid and Rot Beast mount, because that has free healing. You don't need to waste heals on it. It's also your caster, so you can have a wider army out of the gates. But you know, Tammy was able to go fisticuffs with that Thundertusk, which was very big, and hold it in place and allow the Angels of Decay to do their thing. So unfortunately, my opponent is going to be winning on one objective now. We do get the Frolickers Bubonic on their way in. Marauders moving up to the middle point. And as far as Collins for me, you know, I'm trying to pull my Pestigores to the middle out of desperation, but he's done a really good job maneuvering his Leadbelchers this game. And the Leadbelchers are going to be able to just waste these Pestigores. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You know this game is over at this point. The old Pestigores get taken to Pound Town, Tamurkhan and company. We do slowly start to get this back objective back, but it's way too late. It's a really fun match. And obviously one of the reasons Ogres have been having problems since the launch is the stupid splash bug that CA did introduce. So hopefully that'll get fixed soon. But this, of course, even if it takes a month, you know, our tournaments are going to be able to run using this mod that fixes Ogres. So they're going to be totally fine. So don't sweat it. Now, I already told all the hosts on Total Tavern to use it, so we are good to go. Yeah, subpar performance from the Plague Bearer. You know, I usually expect them to grind a little bit of value back, but they had some problems for sure. Rot Knight's got 1,300. The Angels of Decay got about 1,000. So there's a couple game turning points in this game. One of them was me forgetting to, you know, not effectively saving my Angels, which are an 1,800 gold call-in. That gave my opponent a huge value lead. The other one, I guess maybe the Plague Bearer's overextending. I should have kept my formation tighter and not pushed into his turf where he could stomp me down. Was a big one. Maybe I have to experiment with the Humble Chaos Warrior too, like a Chaos Warrior wall. Maybe the armor and the shields will make a big difference against the Noblars too. Yeah, it's worth experimenting with, but it's a really fun matchup, honestly. Nurgle's a great faction. I think they're very solid and very balanced and very fun to play. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Well played, Boss Toss. Let's look at the value here, 1,000 on this. And he did pretty good with the Ogre units, but the Thundertusk got pounded pretty hard. Very happy to see that thing put in the trash can. 1,700 on the Chad Maneaters, and his Leadbelcher play in the late game was awesome. And Yetis with 1,500. How pimp is that? Love to see it. All right, guys, take care of yourselves, and that's going to be it for tonight.